The big headline out of the summit between President Trump and President Xi is that the United States and China are on the same page that North Korea cannot be allowed to possess nuclear weapons. They are a little behind the curve, though, because North Korea already has nukes. So now the task is to try to wind that program back. In a press briefing that occurred early in the morning, New York time, the Secretary of State Rex Tillerson said that China has agreed to take more steps to implement United Nations sanctions against North Korea, putting the squeeze on its economy by limiting oil exports to North Korea, as well freezing bank accounts. Yesterday, speaking with President Xi at a summit of U.S. and Chinese business leaders, President Trump tried a little honey instead of vinegar to get Xi to move. Listen here.
The United States is committed to the complete and permanent denuclearization of North Korea. So important. China can fix this problem easily and quickly. And I am calling on China and your great president to hopefully work on it very hard. I know one thing about your president. If he works on it hard, it will happen. There's no doubt about it.
Little flattery there. Again, some honey to try to get him to move, as opposed to, really kind of criticizing China for not doing more. Secretary of State Tillerson said that while there is no daylight between the United States and China over whether North Korea can have nuclear weapons, there is some disagreement over tactics and timing. So we'll see how that all shakes out going forward, Sandra.
And, John, the president had some strong words on the U.S. trade relationship with China.
He did, and he was quite frank about the fact that the U.S. Trade deficit with China, which stood at $347 billion in 2016, and the president says is likely higher now, really is a travesty, and as the president said, is unsustainable. There was a bit of an unusual moment yesterday as well at that business leaders luncheon, where the president, who during the campaign had accused China of, quote, raping the American economy, suddenly started praising Xi Jinping for taking advantage of the United States on trade. Listen here.
I don't blame China. After all, who can blame a country for being able to take advantage of another country for the benefit of its citizens? I give China great credit. But in actuality, I do blame past administrations for allowing this out-of-control trade deficit to take place and to grow.
Rectifying the trade deficit between the United States and China is something that's not going to be done overnight. It's going to take years if it can ever really be rectified totally. Some faster movement might be possible on the opioid crisis in the United States. The president was very frank with President Xi that China has to stop dumping precursor drugs into the United States. So there was some agreement on that, at least to rein in precursor drugs for fentanyl, and also take a greater action here in China to crack down on people who are illegally producing drugs and then shipping those to the United States. One other point, the president heads tomorrow to Vietnam. We're actually headed there tonight to the APEC conference. Still no decision on whether or not he is going to meet with Vladimir Putin. The Secretary of State Rex Tillerson said they want to make sure that they've got something substantive to talk about, Sandra, before they agree to meet.